Wow, that was tough. I don't know if anyone saw that video, but I was trying to get on and I ended up getting a filter with that crazy hat and sunglasses on. And my phone was locked, so we couldn't get going here for 7 o'clock. So my apologies for being late. But we've got an incredible episode on tonight, Mind, Body, Bank Account, episode number 19. I'm super fortunate to be joined tonight by a gentleman who has a great financial knowledge. He says that we're going to talk about a few things that may be outside the box. So if you think you've heard it all, think again. We're going to have some great information tonight here. So let me try to get this lighting a little better. Ooh. All right, guys. So we're going to be talking about the money game. And specifically, I want to talk about how you can strategize to get ahead in the game. I know all situations are different for individuals, but we're going to try to pick the mind of my guest tonight and see if some of those strategies may work for you. We're also going to talk about financial education and why it's so important to get a knowledge of money and why it's important to make that happen early in life. And I'm talking kids and teens. Why not? Let's teach them around the kitchen table how money works, right? It's only better for our future. So we need this, people. It's not taught in schools, at least not enough. And I'm going to be asking Bruce why and what he thinks about that subject. And also, how does your bank account affect your mind and your body? It all interweaves, my friends. It's all about balance. So we're going to be talking to my guest about that. And who is this gentleman I keep speaking of? Well, he's a guy who I'm very fortunate to have on my show, my little old show from my basement, because he's been on CBC, he's been on Bloomberg, he's been on BNN, he's been quoted in Maclean's, Globe and Mail, to name a few, basically all of the major Canadian media outlets. He currently is the managing director at Anthem Mortgage Group, managing director at Trident MIC, which is an alternate mortgage lender, and former CIBC investment analyst. This is Bruce Joseph. So again, when Bruce gets on the video here with us, talking about money and how you can get everything that you want out of life when you're doing the right thing. Yeah, it works. And you know what? I got on live originally, Bruce. And you know that filter where you got the sunglasses on and the fedora? Well, I couldn't get it. Right. I couldn't get it off. And my screen was locked just like that. So I wasn't sure if it was coming through, but we're back. Great. I was going to start it. Actually, truth be told, I was going to start it with that on and just kind of be a little suave, but my technical skills weren't too good and it locked up on me. All right, Bruce, thanks for coming on.
Glad to be here.
All right, man. So the money game is so broad, and I think that people are for the most part, we don't talk about it enough. I really think that around the kitchen table, around with our families, we're not talking about money as much as we should. And the schools don't teach our kids enough about how money works at a young age. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think we should be teaching this in schools? Do you think that it's up to the parents to be teaching our kids?
Well, so that it would be enormously beneficial if financial literacy was taught in school, but standardized education has never really taught financial literacy. The origins of standardized education is really to focus on creating taxpayers and soldiers, if you want to get technical about it. So that's like the foundation that we built everything on. Now, it's bureaucratic, so it's trying to change. It's obvious that kids coming out of high school don't know really how to do their taxes or how to earn income or how to start a business. But the reality of a bureaucracy is it changes slowly. So yes, it would be enormously beneficial if it was taught in the household, and that's typically where it's taught. Behavioral finance is at the core of how people spend, invest, and make money. And that all happens right at home.
That's right. Now, looking at household debt in Canada, I mean, are we doing the right thing? Do we have the right knowledge to even be able to teach our kids?
Well, our kids are observing what a lot of middle class, like it depends what you're looking at the spectrum. So if you're looking at your typical Canadian,
and let's do that.
Let's
Look at the typical Canadian, just the average Joe.
Well, like the stats are not great. We've had a housing boom for about 10, 15 years now, like solid. And some players have done really well in that market and have increased their net worth in very prudent ways. And others have effectively turned their homes into ATM machines, taking advantage of rising house prices and effectively increasing their debt in relation to the rise in equity in their homes. And where that's taken us to is pre-2007, looking reasonably conservative relative to our neighbors in the South. Fast forward to 2018, where household debt is the highest in the developed world. So it's not great. And at some point, it may create structural challenges, as we're currently seeing in certain sectors of the country.
Yep. So if I'm just an average guy and I'm looking to put my money somewhere right now, and I don't have $1 million, I don't have grandma left me 10 grand. Am I looking to be safe with that? Do I want to put that in a GIC? Do I want to be more aggressive? Do I want to buy Bitcoin? What am I doing with my 10 grand?
Right. I never answer that question in a general way. I think I might have mentioned that.
You did, but I'm trying to limit this to grandma left me 10 grand. I've got my house. I've got my house paid for, and I'm doing okay with my retirement. I got 10 grand that I can play with.
Oh, play with?
Sure. I mean,
that's probably 3 or 4 good vacations.
I'm going to narrow that down.
Yeah.
So 10 grand to play with. I've had my vacations already, but okay. I want this to grow. Where do I want to use that?
So if you're talking about pure investment, like, if you don't have anything invested anywhere, and that's all you have is 10 grand, and what you're telling me is you don't have any debt, I would probably tell you to keep most of that relatively liquid. And then you would look at sort of a strategy. 10 grand's not a lot of money in today's world. Not when the average house price in Toronto is over $1 million, right?
Yep.
So I think what's important is having some liquidity. And if it was somebody asking me that question, I would be really more focused on how are we going to increase your income so that you can make larger investments that yield. There's not a lot of product you can get into 10 grand. Most high yielding investments will not allow you entry at that level. Of course, you could buy Bitcoin, but that's not really investing, is it? That's speculating.
Well, that's the whole thing that people are not sure of right now. We're talking about, something that's kind of brand new, and not everyone understands that. What's your knowledge on Bitcoin? Talk to me.
Bitcoin is potentially a contender for a global decentralized currency, right? So that's it in a nutshell from an economics perspective. If it actually becomes that, in which it intends to do, then it is heavily undervalued, and the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
A coin could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. On the other hand, that may not happen, and it's worth zero, right? So those are your
Wow.
So right now, it's a complete spec play.
Yep.
It isn't really used for currency, because if you go try to settle, go buy some gas or go buy a shirt with Bitcoin, it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So until it becomes mainstream, it won't be utilized as a currency. It's not really a currency. It's being utilized as a store of wealth. But the other challenge is it's like the most volatile thing you can put your money in, and that extreme volatility makes it not necessarily good as a currency or an investment. It makes it basically a casino.
Yep. Yeah.
In the short.
Sure.
And long term may be great.
Yeah. I mean, you hear people winning all the time right now. You hear people talking about how much money Bitcoin is making them, but is it, I guess it all depends on.
Depends when you got in. Look, if you're an early adopter and you got in 6 years ago and you threw a couple $1,000 at Bitcoin, we'd probably be having this conversation, and you'd be in a private jet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's how much it increased. But I mean, if you bought Bitcoin, you know, it's already down substantially from its peaks. It's enormously sold off. There's a lot of unhappy people who recently bought into Bitcoin.
Right.
So you have to think about what it is, what's possible, what its likelihood. I don't have an issue with people dabbling with it and maybe making small investments. But if somebody was about to put $20,000 on their credit card on Bitcoin, I'd tell them they're insane.
Right.
But I've seen graphs that have shown in the U.S. correlation does not mean causation, but part of the big spike in the U.S., and there was a direct link with unsecured debt rising, we don't know, right? But on the other hand, there's a possibility there could be lots of middle-class Americans that were speculating hard on Bitcoin because they heard stories of someone they knew that got really rich.
Yeah.
Really fast.
That's it.
And who doesn't want that? Right?
Of course.
And if you don't know a lot about it, it's easy to jump in and get on the bandwagon.
Yep.
A lot of Wall Street thinks it's a spec bubble.
Really, eh?
And it may be in the short term. It really it may be. So my holdings are quite small, and I'm watching it, but I certainly wouldn't advise.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you. So, average home price in GTA over $1 million. If I'm looking to get out of the house with mom and dad, am I looking? Do we want to buy right now? Do we want to rent? I hear a lot of people talking about whether it's better to rent or not. What are your thoughts there?
So, yeah, owning a home is part of a bigger picture and a lifestyle. I've always been a big advocate that people often confuse residential real estate, the home they live in, with a tradable financial asset, like a stock or a bond, and the two are separate. And that's exactly why, depending on the individual, now is a perfectly great time to buy a house. And for a completely other individual, it's a horrible time to buy a house. It really completely depends on the individual.
Yeah, okay.
I get this question every day.
Right.
Every day. Should I buy a house right now? I'm like, well, sit down and tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
And in about 5 minutes, I'd say, you could buy that house right now.
Right.
You totally want to. You can afford it. Knock yourself out.
Right.
But if you're asking me, I want to buy that house because I expect to make a 20% return in 6 months, that's a different question entirely. Then we have to talk about, well, what else is out there that you could buy that has a higher likelihood of doing that?
Right.
You're talking return. You're talking trading at that point.
Exactly.
So are we talking about home and lifestyle? Or are we talking about trading stocks?
Right. Yeah. No, it's so true. You need to know why you're doing it. What's the game? Yeah. Why are you doing it?
Two things. And as long as the home is affordable and it's a lifestyle acquisition, then yeah, man, because this is more of an emotional acquisition,
right? Not
financial. People confuse that because if you bought a home in the last 5-10 years, you've done extremely well, right? So it's easy to confuse. But historically speaking, it hasn't always been that way. So I always say, if you can afford it and it makes you happy, cool. But don't mix it up.
Yep. True. So talk to me about so my show, Mind, Body, and Bank Account. You, sir, have recently crushed it in the gym, I believe. Right? You've been working on yourself too, right? I mean, come on. Talk to me a little bit how, I honestly believe that your health, your mindset, and your bank account is all tied to one another. Right. Just give me Bruce Joseph's take on how a limited bank account, how if you're hurting financially, if things are not going well, how does that affect you, mentally, physically, and vice versa when you're healthy and feeling pumped and your mind's working well and you're putting the good stuff in here. How can that help you in the money area of your life as well?
So I think what you're asking me is if you're physically fit versus not so much, what's the differential in how you feel and think when you're going into, say, a negotiation so here's a couple of things that are really interesting that I noticed. A lot of what I did recently with my health was more of an experiment as well.
Okay.
I'm paying an enormous amount of attention on how I felt and how I was thinking and reflecting a lot. And what I realized is a few things. My omega-3 fatty acid intake was reasonably high. I was taking a lot of fish oil to reduce inflammation, which increases brain function.
Yes.
And I was also staying extremely hydrated. Over the last few winter months, I've been having a little bit more fun, relaxing a bit. It hasn't been the same level of hydration. I've noticed a difference. So when I was in that sort of zone, my mind was like crystal clear, crisp, and sharp.
Yep.
Like deadly in terms of focus, like mental focus. I was also getting about 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Lots of rest.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Lots of rest. And you can't put a price tag on that. So some people might say, well, that doesn't sound balanced. You're working out like 2-3 hours a day. And I would argue that, no, I think it is balanced. I mean, the human body for a million years has spent most of its time hunting and gathering.
Yes, sir.
Right? We're meant to move around. We're not meant to be stationary. I never felt better.
Yep.
And it affects every aspect of your life in a positive way.
I think so too.
You can get 10 times more work done when you feel 110% physically sharp. If you're tired and unfocused, it's going to take you 2 or 3 times as long to do anything, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that level of balance is enormously helpful.
Yeah, I agree. It's just when your body is healthy and your mind is sharp and you're clear-headed, your decision making is a lot better. Your focus, you just keep moving towards your goals. Yeah, it's all about that balance. So you say,
look, I can tell you right now, it's really hard for people to change habits. That's often like the number one reason why everyone joins the gym in January.
Yep.
And doesn't make it by February or March is the reason why they're doing it. It's weak.
True.
It's if you're you can't a calendar date is not a strong why, because I'm telling you, man, like 9-10 o'clock at night, you've had a long day. Ben and Jerry's ice cream looks really good.
Heck yeah, man.
You're feeling like emotional, and people don't realize how emotional food is. Like, I mean, the first couple of weeks when I was into my eating really clean, it wreaked havoc emotionally, because it's like detoxifying when you don't realize how strong the effect of sugar is, not just on your insulin level, but just in your body as a whole.
Absolutely, man.
And it takes a little while for your body to normalize that, but it's emotional. Like,
yeah.
People don't realize food is so enormously emotional for acting as a Band-Aid temporarily to kind of, like a drug, to make us feel better.
Yeah.
But the cost of that, because, look, I've done plenty of talks in my younger years, because in my mid-20s, man, a handful of pills like this big.
Yep.
Blood pressure, cholesterol.
Wow.
Borderline diabetic, body almost entirely covered in psoriasis, which is an inflammatory condition, right?
Yep.
Doctors will tell you, take these pills, man. It's genetic. There's not much you can do about it. Well, there is. Lifestyle is way more, has a way stronger influence on your health than I think the medical community will ever get. Well, I'm sure they're doing it now, but give you credit for it. Very few doctors believe that, because the stats don't show that, but that's only because most people don't change their habits, and that's all psychological, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure there's money to be made from all those pills as well, and they don't make money from you just changing your lifestyle.
If you look at the supplement industry in January and the advertising,
man, it's crazy.
So yeah, it's like eating healthy. I spent far less, not that I was even tracking it, but when you're eating really clean, what that also means is you're not hitting, the keg for steak at 6 o'clock with your buddies after work and slamming like 3 or 4 pints of beer.
True.
Which can add up, but I mean, if life's good and you're doing well at work, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But when you call that out, I mean, I would assume it pretty much adds up. You don't realize it.
Big time.
It's a big deal. But more importantly, you just feel really good in the morning.
Yep.
That's the biggest win I can say. The biggest value of it is you're just sharp.
Yeah.
You take anything away from sleeping well, good nutrition and fitness is you kill it throughout the day from feeling sharp.
Totally.
Period.
Totally. Yeah. And what you said about habits, positive habits, I think that's huge too. People just, it's hard to it's hard to break those old habits of, sitting down on the couch after dinner, slamming some ice cream, jamming some cookies in there. But positive.
Well, like that's why the January 1st fails for everybody, right? Because breaking habits are hard. So the first thing you need to recognize is this is going to suck. It's going to be really hard. So you need a strong enough reason why that's going to keep you going when you're about to crack by yourself and nobody's watching you. You don't have to be accountable.
Yep.
It's 10 o'clock at night and you're sad, or maybe you're feeling a little lonely, or maybe like just down because your boss was yelling at you, whatever.
Yep.
If the reason why you're doing this isn't like so strong, you'll crack and fail.
Awesome.
And because that's what changing a habit's all about. Like you're becoming a different person. You're like almost killing the person you used to be to become the person you want to be. Right?
You know what, Bruce? I love this because when I come on, I'm trying to, satisfy the whole. Let's talk about some money here. But when it comes right down to it, I love where this conversation's going, because money really is just the tool to help make our lives more lubricated and easier and all that good stuff. But we're talking about mind. We're talking about mindset. We're talking about all the stuff that really you need to have in your life to be able to get all that money to have an awesome life. And yeah, I like what you're talking about. It's true. Your why's got to be strong, man.
Well, yeah, your why is strong. And I think you asked earlier, when we were doing a mic check, you were talking about something relative with success, and and this whole focal point sometimes on money and success can be a little bit misguided. I like to break. First of all, I think success is subjective, and I break
totally.
It into two sections. There's achievement, and then there's fulfillment. And often in the Western world, we can almost entirely focus on achievement and then comparison, which causes enormous amount of mental illness and depression. And the best example I can give you of that, I think most recently would be someone like Robin Williams, right? Who is enormously successful, by all levels of achievement, but didn't have the fulfillment and then suffered depression, right?
Yeah, man.
And so for most of my early part of my life, I believe success was entirely achievement.
Right.
Entirely achievement. But the reality is, as you sort of become more mindful and you get more self-aware, you realize that's kind of like running away from a beating stick or chasing a carrot. Yep. It doesn't matter if you make 100,000, $1 million, $1 billion. There are lots of miserable people with $1 billion.
Totally.
There's really happy people with $1 billion. So what separates that, and that's why the differentiation between achievement, which is really, I think, what almost everyone talks about, virtually everyone talks about when they're talking about, winning at the money game, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
Almost don't focus on fulfillment. And the most powerful shakers and movers, and anyone that I've always aspired, the Elon Musks of the world, guys like, I'm sure you follow if you want to get motivated, like Steve Jobs, their why, their fulfillment is really, really linked in with who they are and why they do what they do.
Yeah, man. You know what? Awesome.
I can't stress that enough. You know what I would teach in school before I would teach financial literacy? Well before financial literacy, I would teach meditation. Well before that, because we could teach financial literacy in 5 years from now. We could have a currency devaluation. We could rock the whole world.
Yep.
Every central bank in the world doesn't know what they're doing.
Yep.
I sat in and listened to Benjamin Tal, chief economist of CIBC, say that like 2 weeks ago. And it's true. They don't.
Right.
The whole economic is sometimes a little bit of experiment. But children on a large scale, which you focus on, are suffering in scale from mental illness.
Yep.
High levels of self-awareness dissolve that.
Man, I that's awesome. Totally. I think that's I'm glad where this talk went.
We should be asking kids, why are you here?
Yeah.
What's your purpose?
Yeah, man.
What do you want?
Totally.
And then draw that. You're going to graduate from university. I've met professionals with like law degrees, medical degrees. What makes you happy? They get uncomfortable.
They don't know.
What do you love?
They don't know.
That's a weird,
buddy.
Kind of weird. Don't ask a question like that. What are you passionate about?
Yeah.
What are you willing to die for? What's your purpose on earth? And
yes, man.
Dude, stop asking these weird questions, man.
Yep. But those are the questions that we're not asking that makes all the friggin' difference in the world. And you're, you know what? You just taught me something. Everything I'm going to think about now is about fulfillment. Because when you're striving for that, the achievement will happen.
Well, when the minute you have fulfillment, fulfillment, you're right. But the thing with and it won't matter. That's the interesting thing. Fulfillment creates is required to have purpose. Like if you have purpose, you're going to feel fulfilled. What we're really talking about is having a reason for waking up in the morning.
Yes.
If it's just to increase numbers in the bank account, what you're going to realize is, I put up a post actually today. I literally just put it up, and it had a few people commenting on it because I was thinking about this, that often we don't require an enormous amount of wealth to really get by. Right.
True.
To be happy. And we can always add more zeros. That's fine.
Yep.
But when you have a quality of life where, you're doing meaningful work and having meaningful relationships, that's like the biggest focus. And ironically, the other stuff just comes with it.
So true.
Otherwise,
so true.
What's the point of waking up in the morning if you don't have meaningful work and meaningful relationships? All you're going to have is regret when you look back in 10 or 20 years, right? You're at the end of your life. So I think the present moment matters a lot. Often our Western culture is not very present. They're very focused on the past or the future. Again, you want to talk about teaching children, you give me a grade 1 or a kindergarten class, I'm teaching, before I even touch financial literacy, I'm teaching meditation.
Yep.
I'm teaching mindfulness and self-consciousness.
Yep.
And I'm teaching how to be present, here, now, effective in the here and now. So that way we kind of nip this pandemic of mental illness, which is like attacking, because I think that's what you want to focus on kids. And we could go in there and give them all a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad and teach them about have more money going in than you have going out. But if they don't have fulfillment, even if they make a whole bunch of zeros in the bank account, what's stopping them from ending out
absolutely
on top of their car in Las Vegas, partying their brains?
Exactly.
That's they got to have that foundation, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. Yeah, you can throw someone, like you said, a whole bunch of money. If they don't have their stuff figured out and understand what makes them, they're going to go right back to zero. That's where they'll normalize again. But yeah, it's I'm as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, what am I going to talk to my kids about as soon as I'm off this video? Because it's so true. It's about knowing what your purpose is, so that you have something that you can get up with in the morning and have a burning desire to go do.
Exercise. Here's an interesting exercise if you're talking to your kids. Maybe start with, often in Western culture, we get caught up in things like egos. So if you ask your kids something like, what are you? Not who are you, what are you? What are you? They may say things like, because we're taught to be things. I'm a CEO, I'm a banker, and these are just titles, they're not what we are, right?
Yes.
I'm my net worth. People get so associated with their identity that they don't realize what they are. But if you study things like quantum physics, or just physics in general, what you realize is that what we actually are, is very similar from each other. And you get into this state where you realize that we're kind of like potentiality in the form of consciousness, having a human experience. And I know that sounds a little out there.
No, give it to me. That's what it's...
So, but the thing is, if you talk to your children and they kind of grasp that, then a lot of fear and anxiety that they may have, which comes with trying to associate with a false identity, falls apart. And that gives them a lot of inner strength, a lot of power at a young age, right? If they realize that they are a potentiality, then they're not going to second guess giving it a go.
Yeah.
And trying to be disruptive. And they're not going to get sucked into this old industrial sort of, Prussian school system where you're supposed to keep your head down and you're not supposed to speak up and you got to memorize crap when we live in a Google world and the answers are in the back, and don't talk to your classmates about it because that's cheating even though it's called collaboration.
Yeah, man.
Oh. Right? And any of that crap. So it's
so cool.
I know schools are trying to change. I know they know that they're like way behind. But I always made this sort of prediction that I think I'm right on, that mandatory schooling will likely change at the speed of light when it'll be more reactive than proactive. It's government based.
Right? I agree.
And for it to react, it's typically going to react when we hit a point. Did you know, by the way, that for every job we lose in, North America to trade, the East, we lose about 8 to automation. Okay?
No doubt.
Try telling kids to go to school and get a job when they lose 8 to automation.
Totally.
So automation means keeping your head down and doing what's in a manual guarantees failure now.
That's right.
So our kids have to be creative. They have to be disruptive.
Yes.
Bold. They have to basically do every single thing that your grandparents told you to do. You're doing basically the opposite.
Yep.
Right? And if you don't, you're committing career suicide.
This is awesome,
right?
man. I wish I called this talk something different, but I'm so glad this went here.
So I think, like, if you're really investing in your kids and you're focusing on what they are, potentiality, power, they're gonna have so much more purpose and ask better questions. Fast forward that to like when I was in kindergarten, or when I was, okay, put your hand up, put it down. Hey, don't make a lot of noise.
That's
don't
right.
Disagree. Don't agree with the teacher. Like, I was actually told answers like, well, why is that way? Because I said so.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So you almost have to, like, our generation had to, and I found this with a lot of successful entrepreneurs, that particular generation almost had to recover a little bit from education, really.
Totally. What do you
kind of had to recover a little bit. Like, it almost caused a little bit of harm. Got you a good job.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Describe a good job. Secure. Well, there is none anymore, right? The technology is moving so quick. So I'm going to take a step back from that, because I know I just get really passionate about that topic.
I love it.
It's a big one. We're interacting with a lot of college kids on a daily basis, and they all know that the job markets are not what their parents told them they were going to be.
Exactly. Yep.
And it's really hard to advise a kid to just blindly go to school if they don't know exactly what they want to do. They may just be throwing their money away. It's like, you got to know what you're up against and know what you're doing specifically before you start writing those checks, right?
I agree. Yeah, because they not 95% don't know what they want to do, first of all. So you're just going to post-secondary to go through the motions.
Because they were never asked when they were in kindergarten.
Absolutely.
See, that's my point on fulfillment. If you don't know who you are and why you're here, of course you don't have a clue. There's this old saying that says, if you don't know for which port you sail, like, no wind is favorable. You know what I'm saying? So It's like, no, they don't want to know what they want to do, because the whole sort of security fear the jig is up. They're looking at their parents shifting jobs and careers frequently. They're observing the lack of security in the marketplace. You can't go work at General Motors for 50 years and get a gold watch and die. Like, that's gone, right? It's been gone for a long time.
Yeah, man.
So it's really hard for kids to get out of school being taught not to know who they are, to be good little cogs in a big machine, and then be like, what do you want to do? It's like, well, I was never taught how to find who I was and be creative.
Right.
And be disruptive.
Right.
I was told to take orders.
Right.
And shut.
It's still happening, though. It's still happening. I mean, I got two boys. I got 3 children, 2 boys in school right now, public school, right? My boy in grade 6, his teacher, he lets him stand up in math class. He doesn't make him sit down. He lets him move around. It's the best thing that's ever happened for him. This teacher's allowing him to, use what works best for him. Right. My other boy does a speech on financial literacy and why learning life skills and money skills early should be taught in school. His teacher told him, no, you really shouldn't talk about that.
Yeah. I should probably make a quick point on that. Although I, with fairly extreme prejudice, kind of hammer the school system, you raised a really good point. There are handfuls of teachers within the system who actually understand what we're talking about and are trying.
But they're stuck in the system.
I know, but so there are. I've met some great teachers in there that are like they'll tell you, like, their hands are tied.
Yeah.
So I mean, for them, awesome. It's great. It sounds like one of your kids got a great one. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? It's like, for kids just to figure it out on their own, that they have to find their purpose. it's parents like us who need to, you know, unlearn the crap that we were taught so that we can then teach our kids properly and at least let them know that it's about finding themselves and finding their purpose. So
Well, yeah, it starts with the parents. I mean, the parents are guiding the kids. I mean, most of what's talked about at the dinner table is going to have the largest impact, again, because you're talking about behavioral habits, right?
Yeah.
The kids are watching what the parents talk about when is there pain, when they're talking about investing money, or they're hushing it up,
Yep.
or are they
Yep.
hiding how they spend and invest? Is this something that, there's a lot of evidence to show that very wealthy families talk very fluid, they're very upfront, and they'll discuss that with the children
Yes.
at a young age, so they can learn how to manage wealth
course.
at a young age. There's a lot of emotions around money, and that needs to be baked out and replaced with logic and reason and strategy.
Yep.
And if you've never talked about money with your parents because
Taboo.
you grew up in a particular generation or part of the world, and you get thrown into the world, it's very difficult. So for those individuals, luckily we live in a world now where all that information is available.
Yep.
In our Google world, of course, right? It would have been a lot harder for our parents when they were, I guess, in their early parts of their careers.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I keep on coming back to exactly what I said. You want to start the foundation, financial literacy. What you're really talking about is just the rules of cash flow and how money really works. But before that comes fulfillment and self-awareness.
Yep.
By far.
Done.
Yeah.
It's funny because the money game, really, there's a kind of a set of rules, right? I mean, there's some pretty simple concepts that if you do A, B, and C, you'll relatively be able to get D, E, and F. I mean, although
okay,
we're so
you nailed something.
Okay, go.
What you're talking about is like success is a formula.
Yeah, I believe there is a formula, but I mean, it's like there's a highway with 4 lanes, and you can choose, and some
Sure.
will take you off course and take you longer to get there.
So remember we talked earlier, if I broke it into achievement and fulfillment. Achievement is certainly a formula. If you do ABC, it will equal exactly what you're looking for. If you follow steps. And that's why there's so many coaches that focus on performance. And if you do it, it will work.
Right.
And it does.
Right.
Because it's almost science, right?
But are you doing it for the right reason?
Is an art. It's not, right?
I like
And
this.
so you can't just make a kid self-aware, because part of the way you find out what you are and what you're supposed to do is often not by telling somebody, but through something called negation, by focusing on what you're not.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Which is really frustrating for people in the beginning. So tell me what to do. I'm like, well, I can't do that. It's got to come from you. But I don't know. Okay, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to bake it away, because we're all the same when we're like what we are, but we have these identity issues that we get too attached to, and that creates a lot of pain for people.
Yep.
Right? It's an art to figure out what your purpose is.
Well, what I was going to say was that, the formula part is the formula, and you can figure that out. But and I was going to actually touch on that, and I think you finished it for me, is that it's the other side. It's the fulfillment side that you really need to understand. Because when you understand that, well, then you just put together the pieces for the fulfillment or the achievement side, and I mean, you got to
understand. It's a difference between waking up in the morning, looking out the window, and seeing like a miserable. It's like perspective, right? Like everything's going to be hard and miserable. Or waking up in the morning and all you're seeing is opportunities.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
On one hand, it's all problems. On the other hand, it's all opportunities. And the only difference is perspective, right? That's really the difference between being and that person could throw $1 billion in their bank account. It's irrelevant at that point.
Yep.
Their perspective is really what's going to make the difference on the quality of their life. And that comes down to their mindfulness level when they wake up in the morning.
Yeah. So what makes you happy, people? What makes you happy? What gets you up with passion? Find it and go for it. I mean, that's it, Bruce. We gotta find what makes us tick. Find out what you are, not who you are.
like I said, kindergarten meditation class. You know, it's funny. I went to see Dr. Ken Robinson speak a number of years ago.
Okay.
And he's done a lot of work. He's been knighted for his work in education, by the way. And what he talked about, there's a great video on YouTube called Does School Kill Creativity? And I highly suggest watching it if you haven't. It's probably the most viewed TED Talk. It actually is the most viewed TED Talk.
Does school
ever.
kill creativity?
That's right. That's right. So I went and flew out to Calgary just to shake this guy's hand and hear him talk for about 20 minutes, and it was worth it.
Yep.
Right.
Cool.
But one of the things I took away from that is children have a genius level divergent way of thinking. Genius level, right? Adults do not. It's embarrassing, right? And they did a really great study where they watched kids from kindergarten go through school, where about almost 100% of the class had 100% genius level divergent thinking. That's out of the box
Yep.
thinking. Convergent thinking would be in the box thinking. That number went down so quick, but by the time you got into high school, it was like 3 or 4% had a genius level in divergent thinking. And the only consistency throughout that timeline is they were educated, right?
Wow.
So the current education system we have, there is scientific evidence that it actually decreases our divergent thinking and creates convergent thinking, which is not what allows us to be successful entrepreneurs, which I assume is part of the big focus of your.
Definitely.
I don't know what to call it. Is this called what is this called?
You know what? This is we're doing a Facebook Live right now. We're gonna end up taking all this. We're gonna be putting it on podcasts. It'll be available on Google Play, Stitcher Radio, iTunes eventually. Definitely.
I think the focal point there and the interesting thing to take away from that study is that we've gone through a process that has taken away or weakened the muscle that's required that we need to have strong to be great entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And that's a divergent thinker, out of the box.
The divergent thinking muscle. I like it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you're keeping your head down for too long and your hand down, you're not being bold, you're not being disruptive, and long enough, you're gonna think in the box. But guess what? When you think in the box like that, you're really, really, really good cog.
Totally. But that's engineered. This is not engineered though to keep us being great employees, not asking a lot of questions, going to work, being.
Of course it is. But look, it's not like part of some, like people think it's part of some like crazy
conspiracy. Yeah.
Here's the reality of it. It started back with Ford in the night, like when Ford created what's called the $5 day. He needed workers to come and work for him into the city, and he overpaid them, and it worked out really well. But they were farmers, and they were all over the place. So there's a reason why you clock in at 9, you clock in at 5, you have your lunch here. Why school is kind of like the only thing that differentiates you is your year of birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people move at different speeds, right? But we kind of go through this manufacturing process, the school system, not that different than an assembly line, right? And the reality is having convergent thinkers versus divergent made good factory workers, and it was awesome until it wasn't. So it's not like we're just doing this still because we don't know what else to do.
Right.
We don't know how to shift educating children on how to be convergent and then rewire the entire educational system on a dime, even though that's what we need to do.
Yep.
We'll do it on a dime. And then, okay, now instead of being convergent, we have to be divergent. What does that look like?
Yep. That's what we need to do. We need the divergent school of the future. We need it's awesome.
It'll be reactive though, Mike.
Yeah.
Bureaucracies are always reactive.
I know, eh?
Show me a government that's ever been moved as quickly as a tech company that's looking for problems to solve.
Exactly, right?
It's going to be
comparison.
reactive.
So the school of divergent thinking is around your kitchen table. I mean,
yeah, it starts with the parents, and it's unfortunately I don't know that there is an enormous percentage of call it middle North America that is incredibly self-aware. We live in a Western culture that's for the most part focused on consumption.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
We're focused on consumption. We're driven by emotions like greed and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, and that's not just a function of industrialism, but that's marketing. For the most part, has been created in such a way to convince you that you are broken and the only way you can be happy is by buying this product. And it works really well. But if you've been reading this and watching this since you were a kid, this is very hypnotic, and it actually alters the subconscious fabric and programming, unless you're aware of it.
Right.
You want something else to talk to your kids about? Don't watch television.
I know,
Don't watch advertising. That stuff is like poison
It
for your
is.
mind.
It is, man. It is.
So, I mean, we're in a world now where social media can convince you that the truth is what's popular, not credible, right? So being able to discern, being able to decipher the truth for yourself. And a lot of that comes from being mindful.
Yep.
Right. Is at the very core. And you can tell parents to do that, but the unfortunate part is that only the vast majority of parents don't have that themselves.
Right.
To teach their kids.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
They're too busy chasing those carrots, running away from a beating stick themselves, and thinking happiness is in buying the next larger, faster car. Right? How are they going to teach their kids that happiness comes literally from within through my favorite quote? You can talk about happiness in a million different ways. I will tell you exactly. When I had my YouTube channel up and it was enormously popular, I did a talk, and I focused on a book that, if you want to talk about happiness, you read this book. It's very short.
Let's hear it.
By Viktor Frankl, and it's called Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning?
Yeah. So listen to this.
Who's the author?
This is Viktor Frankl.
Okay, yeah.
Happiness cannot be pursued. It must ensue. It must come as an unintended side effect, okay? An unintended side effect of doing something for a cause greater than yourself, or by allowing yourself to sort of be in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
that's not really verbatim, but it's close. So I'll just repeat that again because it's important. Because when you're talking about like happiness coming from within, it's important to understand that concept. By the way, he wrote that book in his mind when he was a prisoner in Auschwitz during World War II. So he had to memorize it, right? So that's strange, isn't it? How can somebody write a book about happiness while they're a prisoner of war in a death camp? He became so good at watching people, he could tell by the look in their eyes they were going to die the next day.
Yep.
Okay? And he wrote a book about purpose and happiness.
Wow.
It is super powerful coming from this man.
Wow.
So I'll say happiness and success actually cannot be pursued. It must ensue. That is the key word. It must ensue. And it has to happen from a cause, doing a cause greater than oneself, or giving yourself up to the moment. That's that whole being present.
Yep.
Or doing something that adds value into the lives of others.
Right.
That shouldn't surprise you.
No. No.
Right? It's not an enormous surprise, but it's key. Now, I read that book in my late 30s. Imagine if I had read that, or if kids read that, in grade 9.
Totally.
And really grasp that concept. Instead of watching or playing a video game and having Coca-Cola tell them that happiness is downing a 2-liter bottle of caffeine black sugar water, which is, they would never say that's what it is, but it's subconscious, it's subliminal. So when you're feeling down, you were talking earlier about fitness and eating clean, you don't realize the reason you're reaching for that Haagen-Dazs is you've been flashed 10,000 images over the course of your life where somebody was having a bad day and they took a scoop and now everything's good.
Absolutely. Right.
Right?
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true that advertising is so powerful, man.
But I would recommend that book to your viewers, because it is one of the most
Man's
powerful...
Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow. We got to get on the meditation.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that if you want to talk money and finance, by the way, Ray Dalio is arguably
Love the guy.
The wealthiest, one of the most powerful fund managers in the world.
Yep.
One of the most influential, author of the best-time selling book, Principles, which I've read front to back, taken notes. The vast majority of his success, he he believes is caused from doing 20 minutes in the morning and evening of meditation. Something called transcendental meditation, but I don't think it's necessary. That's as long as meditation is being done. And that allows him to calm his mind, be focused, and understand that when he starts his day, it's with sharp purpose. Versus, have you ever had a day where you wake up in the morning and you've got purpose and you get up and you kill it because you know that?
Come on, yeah. It makes all the difference.
So that's what meditation really helps with the focus versus getting up and then going through the motions. It's 5 o'clock. You don't really know what you were doing and things are kind of over, and you were far less efficient.
Yep.
Meditation is absolutely crucial for that. And it gives you the purpose that you need to have the confidence that what you're doing throughout the day is meaningful and matters.
Love it.
It coincides with why you're here and what you're supposed to do. So when you're on your deathbed and you look back, you don't have regrets because you weren't doing something because somebody else told you to do it, or because your teacher told you to do it, or your mom or your dad told you to do it, or your priest told you to do it. You do all those things, you're going to die miserable with a lifetime of regrets, right? But if you tell your kids that they're doing what they're supposed to do because it's coming from within them, not because you told them to do it, because they knew it was right to do,
yes,
they're going to have no regrets, and they're going to have the power and the ambition to do what a lot of millennials can't do right now, and that's like work till 11 o'clock at night, and not take the breaks. And I don't believe that millennials are necessarily lazy, like they get a bad rap. I actually believe that they're lost.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
It's hard to work hard if you're lost. Where's the motivation?
Man, come on, of course. Of course.
The depression era of our grandparents, they may not have had a huge amount of self-awareness, but they had a lot of reasons to work really hard, like starving. That's the motivator.
Their why was pretty motivating. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. And fear is a great motivator, but it doesn't create a high level of happiness.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But the millennials have unlimited abundance. So what are they?
Let's find out what makes you happy. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you have unlimited abundance, it makes it a little bit more challenging, and that's where the meditation, the self-awareness comes in. Why am I going to work? If you telling a kid comes in the car, why am I going to work? I have all the food here. I got an amazing game console over there. I don't have to do anything.
So you got to do something greater than yourself. You got to do something of service. Yeah.
It's going to come. It kind of even links back to what we were talking about with dieting. When things get hard, why are you going to keep on going? If somebody else told you to do it, you're not going to do it. You're going to fail. If it's not self-driven purpose, you will crash at the first sign that things get difficult, won't you?
Yeah, totally. Commitment. I remember hearing it being described as doing the thing you said you were going to do long after the mood in which you said it in has left you. And it's kind of like that whole idea of, I'm going back to the gym, I'm going to kill it, and then stopping. Or I'm going to start saving money and then stopping. Or I'm going to start meditating and then not following through. It's, are you going to be committed and continue even when you feel like you just don't want to do it?
And it all comes back down to the why.
Yep.
Why are you doing it?
Yep.
And to find that strong why requires you to sort of sit in a room by yourself without any distractions, which, by the way, is really hard to do. You know why most people don't meditate?
Because they can't get through the first 30 seconds?
Exactly.
Of being by themselves?
Like, oh my God, this is hard. It's absolutely painful for most people to sit in a room quietly by themselves for 5 minutes.
Yep.
Without their cell phone within like arm's reach.
Totally.
Right. So think about that though. When I'm, and a lot of people who meditate or enjoy things like yoga or personal fitness will tell you that their creative ideas don't happen when they're sitting in front of an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
It happens when they're moving around and they're sort of in their motion, whether that comes sitting in a lotus position, chanting, or whether that, for me, it happens when I'm running a 5K in the forest or when, I'm just in the zone.
Totally.
Lifting weights. And I haven't talked to another person for like a good 30 minutes. And I'm in this motion. Your brain, your mind goes into another.
You're almost in a state of meditation doing that. Yeah.
Exactly. That brings clarity and focus and centeredness that is really required, I think, to have that sort of strong purpose. A lot of people don't do that, unfortunately. They kind of don't pay themselves. They're stretched too thin. They say things like they don't have enough time.
Yep.
They haven't made enough time for themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Okay, Bruce, here we go.
I think.
But you know what? It's like, when you say you don't have enough time, it's like, that's a load of crap, first of all. And when someone says that to me, I say, well, what are you doing with the rest of your time? And I'm always picturing the airplane when it's going down and those masks come out of the ceiling, who do they tell you to put the mask on first? They say put the mask on yourself first, so that then you can at least be alive to be able to help the other people. So you got to take the time to help yourself and find that time.
Yeah, I would say a lot of people don't pay themselves first, probably out of guilt.
Yeah.
Or because, you know, and I try to be really sensitive because that's frequent. A lot of it has to do with they're not aware. Here's the thing, Mike. People aren't aware that they could be more valuable and serve others better if they're healthy.
Yes.
And if you want to take it back to the money conversation, and successful.
Right.
If you're happy, healthy, and successful, you can take care of the people that you love way better.
Totally.
It's hard to take care of people you love if you're, you know, falling apart in your health. And I know that because my health was there one time.
Yep.
I can totally take care of people I care about better now, right? Because I have the physical strength to do that. I couldn't have said the same thing 15 years ago, right? So I think that's what it is. Like, don't feel guilty about taking care of yourself first.
Yep.
Realize that you need to do that in order to take care of others. And once you realize that logic, it clicks.
True.
Does that
True.
make
Absolutely. Makes loads of sense. Man. Okay, so here we go. We're going to wrap it up. I said, let's do this 20, 25 minutes. We're at an hour now. So you're on the hot seat now. What makes Bruce Joseph happy, and what's your purpose?
Oh, that's amazing. Cool. You're going to put me on the hot seat. So 2 things. I'm going to break it down into 2 things. So, and actually, it falls right into Frankel's quote too, because I've given this a lot of thought. So when I'm doing things like my highest level of feeling good about myself is I think back to giving talks to kids at Georgian and different high schools, or just in groups. And when they're engaged, and I've said anything that makes them go, oh yeah, and it's not just about unlocking a concept. It's kind of like, oh, the way I looked at that was wrong, and now I have a powerful tool that's going to allow me to be more effective in life.
Yep.
I feel like I've contributed, right? So that would be on one hand something that gives me enormous amounts of joy and bliss, and I can do that. I try to do that as much as I can throughout the day.
Right.
With the relationships I have, with the friends that I have, and just in life. On the other hand, as you remember mentioning, giving yourself up to the present moment. I am at the highest level of happiness when I'm 15, 20 minutes into running around by myself like a lunatic in a forest, or when I'm like in the zone, my heart rate's up to 140 to 150, I'm pumping iron, I'm drenched in sweat, and I'm just in this moment.
Yeah.
And that might seem uncomfortable, but it's that adrenaline rush is like pure bliss.
Yeah.
When you're kind of in that zone, it feels amazing. So if I had to conclude on that, I'm happy when I'm serving others, and I'm happy when I'm in the moment.
Awesome.
Totally relaxed here and now.
Bruce, thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it. I'm so pumped to where this talk went to. Just kind of weave down that path of awesome. I know.
That was supposed to be 20 minutes. You kept me on.
I know. Hey, I kept you on. It was just, just coming out. It was just the goods, so I couldn't stop you.
Well, thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. You take care of yourself. If you're into it and you want to let people know how to get a hold of you, drop something in the comments. I'm going to share the.
Well, I'm looking at the left here, and I recognize there's a lot of people who I recognize have been watching this.
Yeah, buddy. I'm seeing great.
I thought it was just people on your feed. So.
Well, buddy, listen. Together, hey, as long. See, I don't have a whole lot of followers. I don't got a whole lot of friends, but I know that somebody is going to watch this. They're going to grab something that's going to change their life. I know it. And as a matter of fact, if it doesn't do anything else, it's changed mine. I'm not joking, Bruce. Call me selfish, but I'm doing this to better me and to better 1 or 2 other people. And my kids that are sitting here listening to this right now, they're growing. They're growing also.
Hopefully I was appropriate.
You were appropriate. It's all good.
Well, hey, Mike, listen, I'm glad I could help out, and I like what you're doing, man. Good cause.
Thank you, sir. You take care. Have yourself a great night.
All right.
Later. Wow. You know, we got into this talk just originally to talk about money, and it went down the rabbit hole, but I'm super happy where it went, because the truth is that when you know your purpose and when you know what makes you happy, then you know why you're doing what you're doing. So that when you put together those tools and that formula to help you with your achievement side, right? So we got a fulfillment and achievement. When you do that, boy, oh boy, the world is your oyster. My friends, thanks a bunch for watching. Bruce was incredible. Stay tuned. Next episode, we're gonna have Doug Gray on. We're talking money again. He teaches the direct principle. He teaches you exit strategy. He teaches you how to get out of debt properly. He teaches you what the financial institutions don't want you to know. So stay tuned. That's going to be happening Monday, March the 12th. Thanks for watching Mind Body Bank Account. And remember, keep your mind open, your body strong, and your bank account growing, guys. See ya.